Good afternoon, everyone. We
Yes,
are so
yes.
excited to be here on today. We know what it is. It is another wonderful episode of Arise and Shine Stories of Triumph. And so today, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about some stories and we're going to talk about some triumphs, but more importantly, God moments that is the synergy between everything that happens. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, who will introduce our handsome and beautiful guest. I was going to say beautiful, but we have gentlemen on today. So handsome and beautiful guest today. Tanya?
Yes. Good afternoon. Welcome to Arise and Shine. We are blessed to have some extraordinary individuals with us today. I kind of sent out a notice about that. So for you to get ready to hear some great stuff. Let me start with the beautiful lady to, I don't know if it's my right or left. It depends on how you look at the thing. Kind of confusing. But this is the beautiful Nerissa Jimenez. She is a fitness and health coach. Well, if you sum it up, honestly, she is a financial fitness coach. And she puts the health in there with the fitness part, right, sis?
Yes.
Oops,
yes.
I let the cat out the bag too. She's also my sister. I call everybody sis, but she is like, DNA, like
right.
For real. But she doesn't have any privileges. I'm going to tell you, the authenticity, all of that, she brings on her own. I'm not holding her feet to the fire. She is just, she's part of the same tree I am. As Benicia always says, we're kind of twins, and she's going to share for real from her heart. And I never can stop her. Sometimes I want to, and I never can stop her from doing that. So just wait till she speaks. And then we have Mr. Jameel Macy. And he is a new author and quite an accomplished gentleman in his own right. And I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'm going to tell you why I said that. But he is high up in the ranks. If anybody knows anything about speaking, they've heard about Toastmasters. And that is not an easy ladder to climb. Right. And he is sitting at the doorstep of distinguished Toastmaster. So we're going to talk about just inches away. He is a new author of an amazing book called High School No Fool. Did I say it right? Or No Fool High School?
You got it. High School No Fool. That's it.
Yes. Yes. There you go. And I believe it's up behind you on the top shelf.
Yeah.
And he is super excited. There you go. Show it off. That's blood, sweat, tears, equity. Yes. Yeah. And he is the father of 5 beautiful children. And his wife is gorgeous. So he's going to talk to you today. He's going to share some of his stories. And I want you folks that have that book in your belly and haven't gotten it out yet, I want you to pay attention to Jamil, because he's going to talk about what it feels like to birth your story, and how important that is. And this next gentleman, he's just a phenomenal young man. And you guys know I walked the parallel entrepreneur journey, just like Jamil and Dequan are walking. And when you have a dream and you don't want to let go of it, and you're working your full time in the process of propping up what God's given you so that you can step out on faith. Well, that's the journey that Dequan is on. He is a CEO of a talent management company called Destined for Greatness. He is a phenomenal young man. And when people always have, unfortunately, negative things to say about the young men in our community and how they're lost and they have no idea what direction they're going in. Well, I just want to share about Dequan. Dequan is actually Jamil's manager. Okay, so how about that, right? having the insight and listening to the whisper of God to say somebody else is worth pouring into. Let me line up beside him. Let me cheer him on. Let me see what I can do to open doors for him so he can become what he's supposed to be. That's Dequan, and he's doing that for several other people as well, including himself. He has a couple of dreams and things that he's working on for him. I'll let him tell you about that. But so I'm excited because also the three of these folks have one thing in common. And they were all at the Then I Rise Summit last year. So when we wrap up today, we're going to talk about what that actually meant to each of them, where they were, where they are now, and what that energy has propelled since that day. So that's 5 of us actually in the room that day. So I want to turn it over to my beautiful sister because I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
I want to know, your company is called Generational Health and Wealth, right?
Yes.
I love that name. It says so much. Talk to us about why you named your company that, and what does that mean to you, really?
Well, the generational piece and all those that are around me kind of know the piece about our family legacy and that our parents are they came here from Panama, so we're first generation here in the United States. Both of our parents were from Panama, and so for me, it's making that legacy live and helping others to realize that what legacy is all about, just solidifying a foundation of legacy for other families and helping them to identify that. For us, our family, we thrive on legacy as far as our dad being an entrepreneur. And some of us taking on that mantle of being an entrepreneur and making that live. And some of us denying it at first and realizing we're cut with that cloth, right? And having to fulfill that legacy, not just in, just as an entrepreneur, but on the health side. That is a piece that was birthed in me from heaven. I believe that. And just being healthy financially and being healthy physically. And that not just being in this generation, but propelling in generations, even reaching back to the former generation to look at some of the truths and some of the things that we have been taught and kind of saying, okay, is this the right way? Even in preparing a food, as simple as that, maybe there's some different ingredients and things that we can use, but still holding on to our traditions and making it more healthy. So yeah, it is about looking back and looking forward and making that legacy live.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And I mean, a lot of people talk about those two things. You're actually a certified Dave Ramsey coach. You've gone through that entire program, invested in yourself so that you can actually sit down with people and work with them on getting their financial picture in order. And that's huge for legacy. Yeah. I'm curious, Dequan or Jamil, and I almost know the answer that Jamil will give, but I don't want to speak for you. Talk to me about how important what you're doing now is to your legacy.
You're trying to make me tear up early on, Tanya. You can't start with the tears early now.
I can't start with that right off the bat.
So I, as you mentioned earlier, I'm married with 5 kids. And we have 3 boys and we have 2 girls. The oldest one is a freshman in college. Then our oldest daughter, she's 17. She'll be graduating high school here in a couple of weeks. She'll be graduating early. Our middle son, we have Joshua Jordan, and then Josiah is our middle son. He's a sophomore in high school. And our youngest daughter, she's a 6th grader. And then our youngest son, he's a 4th grader. So talking about legacy.
Yes.
we've talked more about legacy over the past year, and saying that word legacy, than I have my whole life. And that's not exaggerating. And when you start to talk about being an entrepreneur, you're looking at the right now, right? I want to get myself established. I want to start a company. But you're also thinking, what do I have to pass on?
Right.
So there's a lot of things that get passed on unintentionally, right? Negative habits, negative paradigms, negative behaviors. But when you start to look to intentionally pass something on, I definitely agree that's something that you have to be mindful of, you know, to be able to put yourself in a position to pass something on. So I know a lot of times when I'm even speaking about it now, it comes out in my speeches. That just the other day I did a speech, and it's about my daughter, the one that's about to graduate high school, and she's a cheerleader, and you know, she's doing good. She's kept her nose clean. She's got a boyfriend, but I still forgive her, right? Nah, he's a great young man. He's a great young man. But I was doing a presentation about her, and I was kind of reenacting a graduation speech, right? That we're gonna have down the road. We'll have some little small celebration. But I put together this little slideshow, and my wife was helping me get pictures of her when she's young, and little tiaras and outfits and stuff. And then she got middle school age, and she started, you know, doing cheerleading. And then just her as a senior. When I was giving the speech, I flashed that cheerleading picture of her as a senior. Lord have mercy. I almost lost it on camera. I you know, because I was thinking what we're talking about now. I was thinking legacy.
Yeah.
This is my little girl that's about to grow up and graduate and go into the real world and experience some of the successes and also some of the failures of the real world. And you have to have both. So, you know, I can go on and on about legacy. I'm not gonna, you know, monopolize the whole podcast, but that's, yes, legacy is huge. It's huge to intentionally teach both directly and modeling it indirectly, what we want our kids and people around us, our environment, our world around us to be able to carry on. So that's my opinion about legacy. It's huge.
That's powerful. You're living it and sharing it, right, Benicia?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Millennial, tell us what legacy means to you.
Well, for me, I always desired to be more than they told me that I could be. And for me now, with me being the oldest of 3 younger brothers, there's four of us total, but I'm the oldest. And I always knew that I was the oldest one and they were looking at me. So for me, my legacy was to create something that I could pass to them, that we could do as a family to pass to our kids. And I just want my brothers to see that we can be more. Oh man, this thing has hit me as I'm saying it. Sorry, man. Sorry about that.
Oh, the oldest is something, man. I'm gonna tell you, I can relate to that. That flag of the oldest and looking back and wanting to pull with you, that's a heavy flag. And unless you carry it, don't nobody know. So I'm right there with you. Don't nobody know what that feels like.
Just being the oldest, I just wanted my brothers to see that we could be more. We could be more, you know. And I hopefully, you know, I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect, but hopefully they are looking at me as we can be anything, because I've tried to model that in front of them so long. Oh man, God Almighty! I didn't know it was
that's a heavy one, right? I'm not trying to pull an Oprah on you guys, for real.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You got us already.
Got us all already. Oh my goodness.
It's true.
So sorry to start it off like that. Jeez, let me get myself.
No, you're good. Please don't apologize for being on.
Yeah, I would say don't apologize. That's actually something to be celebrated, that you would have that much empathy and sympathy and passion for your family. So
Yeah.
nothing to apologize, but something definitely to be passionate and encourage in other individuals, because what legacy is also not selfish. Because I'm not just thinking about me, I'm thinking about all the individuals, you know, not just family. Of course, family is important. We want to pass it down. But what about those individuals that don't have a big brother, a big sister? They need somebody to look up, you know. And now I recognize, you know, as I was praying about the podcast, it just kept coming to me, you know, that Jesus said, I only do what I see my Father do. Well, if we don't have anybody doing anything, then how can anybody model? And so in this day and time and age, where especially, let's just be honest, for men, it is so essential for men to be in a place where they're walking in their callings, their gifts, their talents, and their passions, because other men, I always say that it doesn't have to be a biological father or mother or whoever, right? It just has to be someone that cares enough, that has a passion. Some people you'll never meet. They'll just watch this podcast and they'll say, listen, if they can, then I can. Or it might jog them to say, you know what, I need to change some behaviors because I do have little brothers or little sisters that are looking up to me. So as everyone was speaking, that just came to me that in order to leave a legacy, you have to live a selfish, unselfish life, because you're recognizing that when it gets hard or challenging or whatever it is you're teaching, you're building muscles even for your family that's watching. Dad didn't give up, you know, Dequan didn't give up, you know, Nerissa didn't give up, even in the midst, because they really see what goes on. We see the finished product. But they really see what goes on. So that's encouraging. I'm encouraged.
Yeah, it's powerful. It is. It truly is. And I think with the year that we've been having too, right? I want to ask the three of you about that, because what I've noticed is, I mean, we can all come together on one common ground and say 2020 has been something else. Right? But there are the pieces, the tough pieces. For me, it's been, I guess the summation for me would be to say it's been the best and worst that I've experienced. All in one, because I've made some amazing progress in some areas, but my heart's been broken in others. What would you guys say? Is that the same experience that you've had? Feel free to just grab the mic and talk about it for a minute.
I know for me personally, it's been exactly what you said. It's been some of the best moments and some of the most difficult moments at the same time. They both coexist kind of together, right?
Yeah.
Over this past 12 months, you know, work-wise, being in a corporate office, I'm a facility manager for a life insurance company as well. So some of that has slowed down as far as maintaining the building, because it's less population coming into the building.
Right.
So some of that has slowed down, but you still have to do some planning for the handful of people that are coming into the office. You have to make sure you have hand sanitizer. You have to make sure that you have COVID measures in place to make sure that those handful that are coming in are taken care of. So, but the day-to-day operations have kind of slowed down. But I've been busier than ever. You know,
Isn't that something?
you know, outside of, you know, work, and also getting our oldest off to college and then getting ready for another. So you have a personal life, still stuff going on. Their school has changed, right? So now you have, instead of all 5 of them being in the classroom, all 5 of them are at home with me some days and me trying to work. So
all by itself.
Yeah, I've taken a few conference calls, Zoom calls in the minivan in the driveway. Okay. So, but then and hearing, you know, some of the difficulties, some of the impacts of people losing jobs and all kind of this, that, and the other. So there's been some difficult moments, But at the same time, I was able to, birth a book, something that I would have never,
Come on, Jamil.
never thought. It's one of those things where you say, oh, I could write a book, but you never really intend to write a book.
Yeah.
So I've done that a few times, but to look at like having your dream in your hand. Have you ever held your dream in your hand?
Come on.
Good. That's
Or
good.
posted it in front of you?
That's so
All
good.
right.
Write the vision and make it plain.
Yes.
Right. So
Mhm.
your dream may not be a book. Your dream may be to do something else, but as we can't separate the wheat from the tare sometimes, right? So the analogy of trying to make everything great, sometimes there's difficulty in the middle of a good situation, and they both go together.
That's right.
So for me, again, that's another subject that I can talk all day about, but I would have never guessed there still was a lot of nights that I was tired, didn't want to go on, figured maybe I'll do it later, maybe I'll defer it. But, as we started talking about legacy, that emotion of I have to pass something on. We have to pass something. It's bigger than me. That fueled some of the fire through a pandemic, through imperfect times, to be able to keep going. So I definitely know that during difficult times, there can be good that comes out of it. I'm a believer, and I testify that that's true.
That is so true. That hold your dream in your hand.
That's powerful.
Yes.
My God.
That is.
It definitely has been a challenging year. Well, I started out working with a company that I was doing really well. In fact, the last couple of years, I met all my performance goals and was able to go on a trip or earn a trip around the, one was on a cruise, and went to New York and the Caribbean, and and then this past year I earned one. But in the transition, like many of Americans, you think it's one thing at the job, and then all of a sudden everything shifts, right? And then COVID hit, right? And then you experience loss. So I sat down, I had been working on certification to gain my securities license. And so that was an expectation that someone was putting on me. And then I sat back and I said, this is not where I'm supposed to be, because I'm a coach. I'm a financial coach. I'm not supposed to be selling securities, right? So in my heart of hearts, and I had already gone through my master training and certification with Dave Ramsey. And so with this being forced on me, I sat down and did a heart-to-heart with my regional. So I asked them and I said, this has really been a challenge. I passed part of the way through, but it's not my heart. And I can tell that's not the direction that I need to go in. So I would like to partner. And what's a possibility of me shifting my contract? Well, there was a yes when we sat down. A week later, it shifted to no, and we don't need you anymore. So, yeah. But you know what the blessing of all of that is that I had already started the prep of generational health and wealth. God had already helped me to lay that foundation. I had already had my master training and certification and done all of that legwork. So the transition, the day after, was all these people calling me saying, we didn't buy this life coverage for just the life coverage. We bought this because it came with you. You were part of the solution, right? And you brought this for me. So I God always has a plan for us. If we love him and we serve him, he's got a plan bigger than anything that we can ever even imagine, right? Although it was a sucker punch to my gut, not gonna lie, because I'm thinking about this in a certain way and thinking God is going to do this way. God oftentimes has a whole separate plan
Whole separate plan.
for us, right? Than what we could ever even think. And it's so much bigger.
Mhm.
It's so
Yeah.
much bigger.
Mhm.
And even through that, I mean, even walking through that, I remember having a conversation with my regional director. I'm not going to say that this was part of why he did what he did, but I had a conversation about not looking at, you know, the way people are responding right now. Let's look at the heart of the matter, right? What's going on in our society. And, you know, it could have been why, but oh well. You know what I mean? It could have been why, but oh well. God, you know, orchestrated everything. He orchestrates things because when God shows you a face of someone, you really see the face of the person, because oftentimes he will show you and unfold things to you. But anyway, to say all that, experiencing loss, because I lost so many people this year, not even just due to COVID, but I think a lot of people just were fearful and didn't go see about certain things, and just loss in general, like people passing away. And you know, that has been very trying, even in the midst of being in the business that I'm in. It's still, because those people, they were obviously close to my heart. And then even the racial unrest, that to me was really challenging to walk through. You know, being a part of a big church, and then seeing the division coming there, and those seeds of division there, and being part of leader, you know, just part of helping, you know, and bring peace in the midst of division. That in its
That's it.
was very challenging time. But God, that's all I can say.
That's it. Those two
That's
words.
But God.
God.
Those two words.
You know,
Yes.
you know, I see his hand. Like you're saying, Tanya, I see God's hand in everything. And even when those gut-wrenching times, even as a mom, I'm a mom of 3 adults. I have a 29-year-old, I have a 27-year-old, and I have an 18-year-old who's graduating this year from private school. And by the grace of God, he's going to graduate from private school. And I'm just so, you know, when all I could think about when I was watching all that video, right, was I could think about in my mind was my 29-year-old.
Absolutely.
My 29-year-old. And that piece was a really hard challenge to walk through, because as a mother, I know all the mothers felt the pain of that piece. As we witnessed that. And in a split second, things can change. And, you know, just even that piece of it was a lot for me to walk through that journey. And then to come, I feel like, you know, I'm on the other side of that with my children, but not quite, right? What is that going to look like moving forward? So all of that this year has been a lot. It's been a lot for all of us to wrap our hands around. But God has given us the grace, like he has always, and the resilience to bounce back, you know, and even during that gut-wrenching pain that we all were feeling, that we know that God is bigger than all of that, right? God is greater than all of that. And he's helping us, and he's allowing us to navigate even through that, even through the loss, because a lot of people have lost jobs. Now, I mean, I lost that. I was a statutory 2, you know, W-2 employee. So that meant I kind of paid my own, you know, taxes and stuff, but W-2 was involved. So it's like an employee, right? So a lot of Americans.
I didn't know what that meant, really. I didn't really even know what that meant. So you just explained it.
Yeah. And so
I thought W-2, just W-2.
No, statutory 2. I mean, it's like you have your own business, but at the same time, you're kind of tethered or to this one company.
Gotcha.
But what that change did for me in that one situation was that it allowed me to not be tethered to one company. And it opened up the ability for me to be able to do the best job for all my individual clients. So whatever their needs are, what in life, in retirement, in estate planning, in disability coverage, I can help them there. My focus being, okay, looking at the overall coaching situation. Are they, let's eliminate some debt. Let's talk about
So
getting
you know
rid
what,
of
Nerissa, can I ask you a question real quick? So
Sure.
basically what you're saying is that because everybody's experienced this in some way in 2020, is the process of cutting you, in the process of cutting you, they set you free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was God. It's God orchestrating something greater for me. Right.
Yeah.
I had to endure the sucker punch, right? Because it grew me. I grew through that process. But the reality is, what they meant for evil, God made it for my good.
Amen.
And for,
come on.
and for the blessings of other families. I cannot tell you the countless amount of families that I have helped and are continue and will continue to help. Whether it's putting an emergency fund together, whether it's considering other streams of income, whether it's whatever it is, do I have life coverage in place for each member of my family? And figuring that all out and making a plan that's individual to each person.
That's right.
Is key, because every family is different and every stage of life is different. Each one of us on this panel have a different stage that we're in and have a different need. And so God had really blessed me to be able to broaden how I can serve someone and being able to do it the way I wanted to do it. So
Nerissa, you know what came to mind when you were saying that? And I'm sure all of us, not at the moment, but when you hindsight, you look back, it was good that I was afflicted. You don't see it in the moment, but
in the present that it's happening, in the moment it's happening. It's
exactly. But the difference between all of us going through and maybe someone that doesn't know Christ is so many things that each one of you has said, because when you have Christ, it's a grace. It's not our strength, it's God's strength. And we have a different perspective than someone who has to lean on, their own wisdom and their own knowledge. So even what you said is so powerful, is that while you were at your job, and I'm sure, I know Tanya, I know you did this as well, and you gentlemen may have as well, is that you have to be obedient to the unctions that God is giving you. So as he was telling you, start this little business on the side or put this in place, it's because God is so much bigger than us. So he was preparing you for what you didn't even know was going to take place. That's how amazing he is. That's why I love him so much. That's why we can triumph, because we have to trust his unctions. We have to trust when he's telling us something, even when we don't understand. So it comes with the obedience as well. So I love that.
So powerful.
And sometimes, things happen, and like you said, our flesh is like on 10, like, what? I can't believe, but I've been in a position where God said, I was telling you to let it go and you wouldn't. So guess what? I'm going to have my way. Whether you're fired, whether you're in a relationship and the person leave you, because God is God and he wants what he put in you. And by any means necessary. And so if we're not obedient, sometimes he'll force us out. Like, okay, but but what I want to say is, what's a blessing is what each one of you brings. Think about this. When the world opens up, they're going to need that. People are going to have to know how to restructure their finances. Like, it really made
so many nuggets you dropped, Nerissa.
Step back and say, wait a minute, I thought I was good, but who knows? Anything else can happen out the blue, or whatever the case may be. It's someone, that may feel like I didn't finish high school, or, you know, I didn't see myself as being a person that could be an entrepreneur, or coming from this place where people talked about me and all of those things. But they're going to need something. They're going to need an investment. All of these, to me, is where God is bringing believers. You have to learn not just to believe, but you have to learn and invest in yourself. Get the book. Get the book and read about how I raised this individual up who was where you were. So if I did it for him, I could do it for you. Dequan, same thing with you. Like the production and being able to manage and all of those things, because you are offering artist platforms that are blessing people across the world. And so God is thinking way beyond us. He already knew the pandemic was going to happen. It's no surprise to God. He's omniscient.
Yes.
And that's why we all have to align and walk in our giftings, because God needs them for other individuals to be encouraged by, and so that they can move. So this has just been really, really, just really powerful.
Yeah. And it has been. It really has been. And Dequan, I want to ask you, because Nerissa dropped some pearls, and she opened the door for us to have some dialogue about the social injustice, the racial injustice. And to me, it's like you were here already. I know Jamil probably agree with me on this. You're an old soul.
Yes.
You know, and God has poured some things into you. So like Benicia was saying, he already knows what he put you here for. And you're acting beyond your years in some of the projects that you have going on, and you're showing that to your brothers behind you, right? And those that you come in contact with. So when you saw what happened, what did that strike in you? Did it cause you to pause? Did it anger you? Did it make you want to pull on your faith more? I mean, what impact did that have on you? And still, I mean, the reality is we still have to tell our sons, you know, when you see a police car behind you, here's what you need to do. I mean, it's not something that, okay, now it's not on the news anymore. It's not happening. It's still happening. So, you know, where are you with that as a young Black man?
Oh my God. You have no idea. Like, I think about it a lot, and I guess, you know, when you're seeing it happen to other people, it's just like you're just looking at it, it's all on social media. But then when I see my brothers leave the house, then it starts to pull at my strings and my heart, because I be thinking, oh God, I just hope we get back safe. You know what I'm saying? And then
so crazy that we
and
think
my middle brother, you know, he has friends, he's young, and they hang and you know, doing what we do at that age. And each time, like I can remember when he first graduated, he was getting ready to go to college, and he went to the beach for senior week. And I remember how a lot of this was going on at that time. And my mom and I just flat out said, you know what, we're going to the beach where he at. Because we were just in such paranoia and felt so much anxiety of the fact that he was down there hanging out. And do you know that while he was there, he said some officers approached them.
Wow.
And was like, pretty much with the harassment and saying stuff to him. And then when he found out that my brother was getting ready to go to college, the energy switched. Oh, that's a great school. That's where you're going to school at. He was, you know, talking to him, and all right, well, you guys get on home safe. It shifted. You know what I mean? But I just thought in that moment,
Jesus,
what if? What? You know what I mean? Like, could I have wrapped my mind around that? And I said, you know what? And then it makes me cringe, because I can remember us being pulled over, and I'm driving, and I'm taking them on a vacation, and just the fact that my hands are on the wheel, but what I'm dealing with in my mind is, do I show fear in front of them, or do I show somebody who ain't scared to stand up in front of it? You know, you just battle that. Like, I'm like, oh Lord, my hands on the wheel.
Yes,
That's
wow.
But
That's so good,
like,
because in that either way, either decision in that
you know,
is it could cost you dearly.
right.
Either one of those that's mind blowing.
I was in that moment, I was thinking, am I demonstrating to fold when someone's stepping up in your face, or do I react with an attitude? And it's crazy because the I call it the Monroe in me, where I'm from. Immediately my mind went to, I gotta stand up in front of them. I just can't let them see me be like fearful and scary and like that. Like, if something's not right, then I need to be showing them they need to stand up for what's not right. And when the man came to the window, he asked me, do you know how fast you were going, or some question like that? And when he said it, I reacted with an attitude. And I said, if I could see it, you know, I just reacted like that because I'm thinking in my mind, like, I can't let them see me be scared and fearful of this man. But at the same time, I don't want them to see me get shot.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
you know
So
what I'm saying?
how the balance of those two things.
Yeah.
Right.
It's real.
And I just had to dig within myself and say, wait a minute. Hold on. Like, I'm reacting ugly, and I know that they expect that, you know, out of us. So I already know that this is the cop out that they use. Well, he got aggressive and he resisted, and I had to do this and do that, and I felt threatened. So I just had to take the wisdom in that moment and say, wait a minute, talk with some sense. You ain't got to show fear, but just demonstrate the right thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And when I did that, it was just, he walked off, he came back, and he said, here's what I'm gonna do. And he ended up giving me a ticket, but he deducted some stuff off of the ticket. He's like, well, I could have gave you a ticket for this amount and this speed, but because you were honest, I'm able to make some adjustments and give you the ticket for this price. And I said, all right. And I said, well, you have an awesome day. You know, now I'm just trying to stand up and hold my chin up with class, like in front of them. And he walked away from the car, and we go to check in the hotel. We came out to go get food. We're like, well, let's just go get something to eat really quick before we get all settled in the room. That fast, that man had somebody else pulled over that quick.
Wow.
So they were able to see me demonstrate not being fearful, but they also seen me take the higher road of when they go low, like Michelle Obama say, and we go high. They saw me take that road, but then they saw the wrong he was doing to somebody else right after that. And it was like, wow, you know. So for me, it was just, anytime I see anything like that, I always reflect back to, it could be us. It could be me and my brothers. It could be one of us, or even one of my cousins.
And that's so, thank you for that. I mean, that's such a real picture. And I'm seeing the two parents sitting on the sides there, Jamil and Nerissa and Benicia, because your son is the same age almost as Dequan, right? And
he is the same age, yes.
You
and
know that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Jamil what he was thinking, because I heard you say that's so real.
Man.
And you have 3 sons. I couldn't even imagine.
Yes.
Both of you with 3.
It's the funny thing about it's not funny, but I'll call it funny, because when Dequan was talking about not showing fear, even though you really are scared.
Yes,
that was powerful. Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't want to portray, and it's happening in seconds, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
The officer's walking up, asking questions. You're feeling what they're feeling. Meanwhile, you're processing your own thoughts. And how do I react? Not out of emotion, right? So that's what I was just picturing this in my mind. So just a couple months ago, this is me. This is not my kids. This is me, the author, the facility manager. Just a couple months ago, I got pulled over. And the crazy thing was, and I wasn't speeding, I was going 45 miles per hour. So but it didn't matter. I still got pulled over. So I'm like, and it crossed my mind. Lord, I hope I make it home. It could be me. And this is the reality. This is the reality.
My God.
I knew I wasn't going to pop off. I mean, I've had to deal with political stuff, being in different environments. So I know how to react. It wasn't my first time being pulled over, but it's my word against somebody else's word, you know? So, but in that moment, I was afraid, but at the same time, I said, I'm going to put my hands on the steering wheel. I'm going to play the game, because I think about our forefathers, male and female. Yeah. They got way worse treatment. So in order for me to think about legacy,
that's good.
I need to live the fight another day so I can teach my young ones and the ones that are behind me, not just my kids, but the world around me, my circle of influence that God has given me, how to be able to act in these situations, right? So put my hands on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, before the officer walked up. These are some small practical things.
These are the rules.
That our community and other people, younger people, millennials, they feel like they can just do whatever.
That's right.
And just doing whatever could cause a reaction that you don't want. So anyway, yes, my oldest son, bless his heart, he's had a couple tickets. He just got pulled over. Again, it's funny now, but being able to walk him through, like, you do understand, like, this is how you need to handle this situation. It could escalate quickly, even though you're trying to explain, I did this because why, or why, you know, because kids these days, they have a lot of why questions, right? Because we've taught them, ask questions so you can get more information and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So it can be good on one hand to ask questions, but depending on your tone, it can come across disrespectful.
That's right.
So just having that balance, you know, it's a real thing. It's a real thing that I think we have to continue to teach and understand that we're not out of it yet. Like what you mentioned earlier, Tanya, like it's not over. It's not going away. We still have some work to do. There is some encouragement. There is some encouraging conversations that are taking place, you know, that's one of the things I want to do also with my platform, is to speak on diversity and inclusion. You know, I was able to be a byproduct of diversity and inclusion. So I know there's two sides of the conversation, but it's still a real thing that we have to walk through and continue walking through.
So good, so good. And we want you to know that we are praying for you. I know my friends, Tanya, I'm sure Nerissa, we pray for our men because we need you. We need you. And so we're praying every day that God would cover. I just want to take my hat off to you to be able to humble yourself, because that's a humbling thing. Being a man, know that you're not in the wrong, understand the undertone and the underlying issue that really is there, but still having to be the bigger person. And it was so heavy, but real. I never thought about it from that perspective. And we're women, is that especially when you have the children in the car, or you're even thinking about it, you're thinking for you and them, you know? So that's pressure, that's additional pressure that, okay, however I respond, then it's teaching them as well. So I just want to say, thank God for the wisdom of God, you know, Absolutely. That he could speak and say, yeah, no, like Dequan, no, don't respond like that, because you respond offensively, they're going to act defensively. You know, if you respond defensively.
Yeah, that's the Holy Ghost in that car.
Absolutely. And sometimes we don't know that it's prevalent. So I think it's so important that you're on this platform today, because there's men and women that's watching, and they can see an example of this was done to us. We've experienced it, but this is also how we were able to manage it and still come out alive, you know, and walking in purpose and callings. And so I want to thank you guys for sharing that candidly. because it's so true. When they see you, they don't see that you're an excellent husband and you're an excellent brother. Unfortunately, you know, that you have businesses, that you're, and it's not all of them. We don't want to put everybody, you know, in the same, you know, field, but we do recognize that it's an issue. And so I just want to say, I take my hat off to you, and I pray that God will continually bless you guys. I do have a question as well for you three, real quick. If you can sum up the year and what you've gone through and had to experience, what one word would you say and why? Whether it's taught you something, whether you've had to, you know, get in a quiet place just to be able to redirect yourself, what would that one word be? Nerissa, we can start with you.
Yeah, perspective.
Perspective. Talk about it. Yeah,
I mean, I have to say that, and because it resonated with me, and I kind of did a post about it. It's like, you know, you can look at things a certain way when things happen to you, but it's the perspective that you take that will make the difference in the long run. Like these gentlemen were saying, they could have took a totally different perspective in what was being handed to them at the time. But you have to take a step back and allow God to give you a God perspective in the situation. So you know, because we in ourself and in our flesh, we can have our own mindset and what perspective we want to have and walk out. Because in this flesh, there's no good thing. But when it comes to a God perspective, it's a whole different thing.
That's right.
There's it's a black and a white, but then there's a God perspective. There's the third option, right? I taught about that. Miles McPherson, pastor, the third option, you know, it's a God option.
Good.
It's a God perspective. And I think for me,
really good.
It peppered everything. It peppered everything that I went through, every loss, every feeling of loss, every, the transition, that's everything, perspective.
That's so good. Jamil?
Yeah, that's really good.
What about you?
I'm going to use another P word. I'm going to say process. So
everybody's trying to run from that, Jamil.
I don't like
run
it.
from the process.
I don't like it. It's not my favorite word. It's not my, my first choice, but we live in a society that we look for the payoff, but not the process.
Come on.
You cannot have one without the other.
That's good.
You know, we live in a instant message society, instant grits. You know, we have, microwave ovens, this instant, everything's right now. But, God has even seed time, harvest time, process in between that he works by. And that's not going to change. And so many times to where I thought I was done and we've arrived and we've done this and this is okay. And God's like, no, you're not done, buddy. So, but then looking back on it and seeing, I'm glad I had to go through that because I wasn't ready. It was premature. And, in order to get better and better, to be able to help more and more, I'm seeing it's less about me and more about, my circle. So God, and it's still growing. I'm still growing through different levels of a process because you never arrive, right?
Yes.
So my word would be process.
Yes.
That is so good.
So good. 2 P's. What you got, Dequan? What you got?
What's your word for 2020?
Yeah, it's crazy because I have a P, but it's 2 words. So my word for the 2020, and like I said, it's 2 words. It's press on.
Come on.
So good.
And for me, it's just, we look at what we went through in just this year alone. Like, we went through a lot of other crazy times in our lives, each one of us, but we still here.
Yes.
Some kind of way, we still here. So
yes.
when I see this year and it's just getting rough and these new adjustments, I just think it's just another storm that comes along our journey. But what we do, we press on.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
We press on. And that's just my words for 2020 is just press on. And better days are going to come. It's
That's
just
it.
that.
That's
So
it.
powerful. Thank you guys for that because, well, thank you really for coming and sharing with us because I don't even think Benicia and I sat back when we put this blend together and said, okay, this is the perfect little snapshot of our society. But it is.
It is.
I mean, you guys represent that. You know, we have Jamil, who is a hard-working Black man with a beautiful family that he's raising, 5 kids. You lost your dad at 2. There was no book on the coffee table that said, okay, I'm leaving you, son. Here's a letter.
Right.
I'm going to tell you how to do this thing. And you follow these steps, it's going to all come together. There was no book. There was no letter left behind. Daddy was gone at 2.
Right.
So people are watching you. You are a mirror. You are a guidebook. You are an example. Hey, I'm not the most educated brother, but I'm making it happen. Right?
Regardless.
And yes, so don't ever think that the eyes aren't on you, right? Because they are. And if they're not, they're crazy. They need to get the book so they can understand the foundation on which you built your house that's standing right now. And Dequan, you are a walking example of the focus and a brother that wants to give back to the community, that is always positive, always looking to share and pull people up. There are other people that are watching you too. You are the opposite of what everybody says a millennials is today. Complete. If you could be more than opposite, you would be more than opposite. You know, and then Nerissa, you know, you are first generation American from immigrant parents that came here to try to do something, right? And some really crazy things that have happened. But this is your anniversary year of how many years in marriage? 30, how many?
31 years of marriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Who says that can't happen?
That's right.
To a Black family. Excuse me, I just got popped in the head by Daddy from heaven. A Black Latino family, right?
Right.
Who says that's not possible? To raise brilliant children like the 2 of you are, right? And walking and keeping a relationship intact. That's not always perfect every day,
right?
But held together by God and love, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is our society, Benicia.
It is.
These are examples of what people say does not exist. Does not exist.
Right.
That God has his hand in every one of these situations. He has moved in every single one of them.
That's what
they do exist, people.
They do. The common denominator is Christ, though, right?
Yes.
So, and you know, as you were speaking, I just heard, you know, God takes the foolish things to confound the wise. So even when you were talking to Jamil, how powerful is it that he would use someone who lost their dad, right, at an early age to make such an impact on children? How,
True.
Really?
True.
So to write a book about maybe not being educated the way the world says, but we know that when we are in Christ, his wisdom supersedes. Nothing's wrong with masters and PhDs and bachelors. Nothing's wrong with that. But honey, when you get in the mix of having a relationship with God, and he downloads supernatural ideals and books and things of that nature, then he you know what, from everybody's story here, it's just because he wants to get the glory. So no university can take credit for the wisdom that you were given to be the man of God that he's called you to be, to touch all of these lives. Listen, we all know that. We go to school, and when have I used chemistry? I paid $1,700 for this course, but it didn't help me in life. It didn't help me.
You know, that daggone triangle they taught it. I ain't never used that stupid triangle.
You know,
has any of you used that triangle?
It doesn't teach us how to do life.
Right.
But having a relationship with God not only teaches us, but it helps us model for our family. And like you said, Jamil, which was so powerful, is the God-given circle he's given you. Because none of us may have the opportunity to touch we're not going to be able to touch everybody. That's why we're called to a certain sphere. And so you're right. This is a culmination of what God wants. He wants different gifts being used collectively for the body of Christ to push the kingdom forward. And it doesn't always make sense. Even when I look at you, like Tanya said, I have a 27-year-old son. I see the wisdom of God on you. Yes, I know that sometimes you may have even felt like, I really don't fit. Like, I'm young, but my mind works totally different than this crew or these people that I'm around. But that's God's doing.
That's it. What in the world?
He handpicked you. You know, he handpicked you and selected you because he needed someone to break these, what we call generational, curses, and he chose you, especially in your family. And Nerissa, I think about what you said about finances. Even when y'all think about in the body of Christ, finances is spiritual. So we can love God, we can go to church, we can read, but we have a responsibility as believers to steward our finances well. Because guess what? We can't lead our households if we don't. We can't be good entrepreneur and smart businessmen and women without having the wisdom and the knowledge of finances. And so what I love on this platform is what I see is God displaying you not only as loving me and being in relationship with me, but doing big things for him that even the world is going to call on, because they only can go so far without Christ. They're going to need y'all. They're going to need you. And so I'm grateful that, Tanya has introduced me to you. I'm grateful to know you. We're going to keep you in our prayers because this platform was created to encourage people to win. Like, we want to see you win, So I'm definitely going to just keep being your cheerleader, right, Tanya? That's what we do.
Oh, yes. Definitely. Definitely being your cheerleaders and praying for you on a regular. I want to definitely, before we go, I want you guys to talk about, because I was blessed. Jamil, I have to embarrass you for a second.
Here we go.
I have to, because and Dequan, you can't get too far because you was at the table. But at least 2 or 3 other people, and it's a good embarrassment because it's unfortunately not the common denominator nowadays, but 2 or 3 people asked me, who's that brother that keeps pulling out a chair for you and making wait for you to sit down? Who is that guy? Yes. I said, I said, that's a gentleman that Dequan invited because Jamil hadn't stuck yet. By the end of the day, Jamil has stuck, right?
Yes.
So being in the room, and folks, I'm talking about the Then I Rise Empowerment Summit of 2019. Being in the room that day, everybody here was in the room, but I really want to get a perspective And I'll start with you, Jamil, because really you were at a table. This year you're on the platform as contributing to a panel. Talk to me about, the feeling in the room that day and bring us to today.
Y'all got another hour to talk?
Unfortunately, no.
All right, I'll summarize as best I can. So as you mentioned, Dequan had mentioned the event, and I think part of what went through my mind at the time, and it goes through people's mind in general, is we could fill our schedules with a variety of different things, right? And especially when it comes to a weekend, we start to pick and choose what do we want to do with our Saturday or our Sunday.
Right.
Do we need to run errands, or do we want to just veg out and not think about work for a little while? What do we want to do with our weekend? But earlier on the podcast today, you had mentioned investing in yourself. So when I looked at this particular Saturday, I went through the same thought process. Okay, it's an event. I kind of know Tanya from work and stuff, like she's a very nice lady. Maybe I might go check it out, but I could do this, I could do that, I could blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Anisha, you had mentioned earlier today, listening to that unction from God.
Mm-hmm.
This was a moment where I was like, I might need to go and check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could benefit by going and being in the room, being around a body of believers, being around positive energy, being around, just exposing myself. If I do want to become an entrepreneur, let me get around people who are doing entrepreneurial stuff.
Yes.
Right.
So I get to the conference, and, we end up sitting right up close and up front. So the sitting down and making sure you had a chair, that's a whole separate podcast, but it has to do with honor and honoring people who are trying to
honor
to put on something for my benefit, really. I was there to participate, and Tanya was trying to coordinate in addition to some other people behind the scenes. So I was trying to make sure the little small bits of honor that I can do, make sure she's not standing up for hours upon hours upon hours. Hey, pull over a chair, you got an empty chair, Tanya can sit. And that's a whole
right.
Whole separate podcast.
We're gonna do that podcast.
We'll have you back about that.
We will. It's actually chapter 9 in the book, the armor bearer principle. I dedicated a whole chapter.
Talking about, I like that.
Taking care of the small stuff, so the leader can take care of the big stuff. Whole separate podcast.
Awesome.
But getting in the room and listening to, at one point, Nidra Buckmeyer, Pastor Nidra.
Yes.
I'm taking notes because she was saying so many powerful things, but she said, the enemy wants to get to your bloodline. And it messed me up so bad, I couldn't even write there for a second. I couldn't articulate what I was hearing because I started picturing my kids. How many times on this podcast today have we talked about legacy?
Yeah.
Yes.
And this was a year ago, folks. This wasn't last month. This was a year ago, before any book was talked about, before any of this.
Jesus.
But it's like God planted that seed talking about what's coming after you. It's not just about you, but you do have to play your part because of what's coming after you. Your family, your circle of influence, the platform that I'm giving you, Jamil. So being in that room and then being able to have that seed planted and starting the process that I mentioned earlier.
Yes, sir.
It was huge. And then being able to have a separate men's panel, not men's panel, but a men's group discussion that was in the same conference, and let men take off their masks and just be real for a second. It was huge. It was huge.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy for men to put on the mask and be a man's man and this, that, and the other, and try to look like you got it all together and make sure you're. It's still a mask.
So
yes.
good. Woo.
It's just a mask with testosterone.
Come on.
So,
I like that.
but it was huge to be able to. The one thing I kept telling Dequan was, man, this is so helpful, because I've been to different events, and it becomes so churchy that it's not practical. So in this particular
Thank you.
event,
Yeah.
you could definitely feel the spirit in the room.
Yes.
But you also got some practical steps that I was able to go out that day and to be able to apply and start helping me with my own process. So that's my summary of my experience when I came to the conference last year. So if somebody's in their mind right now, should I go Saturday? It seems like it's a little bit like how much, it's hard to quantify how much of the investment that you'll get back into yourself.
So
You know,
True.
you can't measure it. It's hard to measure. You can't measure it. So anyway, that's I would say go. Go. Get there
Jamil,
and have your own experience.
Yes. Thank you. I don't know who wants to follow that. That was powerful.
I know that was a real hard one to follow, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Well, I'm telling you, this would be my third year, and as a sponsor last year as a panelist. I think the timing of this event is so critical for a lot of people, because I feel like going to this event each year propelled me into my next year.
Amen.
And so if there's anything we need right now is something to help us propel and to help us pivot correctly. We need this right now. And I can remember what, I was a panelist, and I also, a lot of my time was spent on small details, but I was in the back of the room, and I was at my table, and I had, some of the things where I would meet a lot of the people at the event, talking about their financial aspects and different things. But I think my pivotal moment was on the panel. And I remember the shift, because I remember how God's spirit just fell on me, and I began to cry, because there was a measure of vulnerability that I had not experienced ever before. Personally, I shared things that I normally would not share. And it was just powerful how God's spirit was there. And I could see people being impacted right in front of me, saying, okay, I get that. I get that, right? It was just very, very powerful how God used that moment, and practical, because there was things that I learned there that I don't think that I could have navigated a lot of things that I experienced this year had I not gone through some of the things. I sat right next to Anisha. We sat close to each other at one point, right? We sat, and I sat next to another young lady who had been experiencing some mental health issues.
Yeah, Barshawn. Yeah.
Yes, and so I think the where everything was situated was just powerful. How God just orchestrated all of that, and then being vulnerable to share, that it's okay to need help. It's okay not to be okay, right? And just being able to navigate through that time and let God's spirit minister to you through that time. But I remember feeling the Holy Spirit on me, and someone even commented to me, like, Nerissa, there was a shift, because I was being ministered to after I had spoken, and then I just remember the tears just flowing from my face at that time. And so, no, I really know that you will be blessed taking part of this event. I've been blessed each and every year that I've been a part, and been behind the scenes and in the front. And I just know it doesn't matter what aspect you come at it, God is part of it. And if you want to be blessed, and if you want practical tools to help you navigate through these difficult seasons, and if you want to take whatever it is you're endeavoring to do in your life to the next level,
That's right.
there's something for you. There's something for you, because I definitely feel like it. I bumped up each year, right? And I've been equipped.
Amen.
That's so powerful.
Yes.
Thank you. How come talk to us, Dequan, because you had the foresight to bring a guest, because to share. And I thank you. If I've not done it, I'll do it publicly now, because really in doing that, you expressed trust in me.
Wow.
You trusted me and you believed in what I was sharing, what God put in me to share with somebody else. So I say thank you for that.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot coming from you. But for me, that experience was amazing because, for one, I always like to surround myself with people older than me so I can learn. And what I told each time I get invited to an event or something like that, and what's the trip is how I even got invited. So let me just embarrass you for a minute. So Miss Tanya comes to me, and at the time I was security at the same facility that her and Jamil worked at. And she came down and she said, "Listen, can you remove that flag and take the flag down and blah, 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 blah. Because today Elijah Cummings, the late great Elijah Cummings has passed away, and we need to honor and respect him and his legacy." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I could do that." I said, "But I will reach out to the facility manager and see if that's possible." So I think I ended up hitting Jamil up, and he was like, "I don't know, that's even something that can be done." So
right.
I sat to myself, and my mom will tell you, me and my mom are like best friends. And when I got home that day, and matter of fact, I talked to her on the phone all the time. So I called her when I got off that day is what I did. And I was telling her about that, what Miss Tanya said, yada, yada, yada. I was like, "I like this lady." I said, "She always nice. She comes in, and I have to let her through because she been forgot her badge because she do this and got this podcast." So I was like talking good about her. And I tell my mom, I said, "Well, she threw a fit today." I said, "She said something about it. Somebody named Elijah Cummings." I said, "I'm going to find out who that man is." Now, Miss Tanya didn't know she was talking to a young man that thought like that. So I immediately went and just did my research because I'm a big Dick Gregory fan and James Baldwin and Maya Angelou and all the people that I studied. Let me not forget Martin Luther King. But I'm just saying, like, I always study these type of people, but there's so many names that go unheard of that you don't hear about.
That's right.
And I went and looked this man up, and I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Oh, he was the real deal." So when I got back to work, Miss Tanya wasn't there. I didn't see her for like a few days. I was like, "Where's she at?" And then finally she comes stumbling in. I said, Elijah Cummings was a great man. And I quoted something that he said. He came to a complete stop. She said, "What did you say, young man?" And I said it again. And she was looking at me and she said, "You know what? I'm having an event that I want you to come to." She was like, "The fact that you took it upon yourself to go research that, and you're how old?" At the time, I probably was 29 at the time. I'm 30 now. And she said, "Wow." She said, "I'm going to invite you to this event." And now, prior to that, she would always come in and see me reading a book. I would be reading a different book each time she would come into work, and I had to let her through. And she would say, "What book is that?" And I tell her, she said, "Wow, that's a good book. You should also read book such and such." I go get the book, whatever she was saying. So she didn't realize that she was teaching and mentoring me without asking, "Can you be my mentor?" I just do that to people that I feel that they got wisdom. I can feel it. And for me, that event was for me to go and get around more people that I can learn from and to also network. Here's where God kicked in. At that time, my business partner, which her name is Sheena, who I brought as well, I asked her, would her and Jamil go with me? Because at the time, she and I were discussing signing Jamil. And at the time, me and her was still in the process of starting the company. And I knew it was a lot of me to ask her to be a part of something when she's not even in the entrepreneur world. That's not even her world. She has a master's degree, you know, from Tuskegee, and she's a school teacher, and she also has a background in animal science, I think. So she's like, she works at a vet. So she's got all these different things that she's into. But me trying to ask her, listen, I got an idea. I'm gonna start a company. I want you to come and be a part of this. And she's just like, what? So I knew if I invited her to that and she see people in the room that look like her, it was gonna trigger her to, well, I guess I'm gonna do it. Then I knew with me telling Jamil, because I had come back from LA, I called him and told him, man, listen, we can do this. I remember you telling me you wanted to be a speaker and yada, yada, yada. These people over here, I'm seeing everything that they're doing. They're not even as smart as I thought. And I was just going off. So he's like, okay. So I come back and I start working the job with him. And then I, like I said, months later, invited him to this event and said, listen, man, I want you to go with me. I think this would be a good place for you to just see what it is that entrepreneurs be doing. That's how I'm taking this event. But when I get there, I ended up going through a whole therapy session.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a minute, I didn't come to cry. I was bringing them, you know, so I can win them over on my side. But it ended up because I wanted them to see that I knew people at your level, Miss Tanya. So that was like all before. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna show them. I know her, you know what I mean? But when I get there, it turned into an experience for me. And I was like, wow. And I thought I was the youngest one in the room up until I seen some of the girls, the young people that they had to come speak around the end of one of the panels. Like, up until that point, I was like, it's just me in the room. And then we go do the men's segment, and whoa, to see men take the filter off and just be themselves in a room full of men. And we say, hey, listen, ain't no recorders, no cameras in here. We're just going to take the guards down and we're going to be men and talk. So for me, that experience to see grown men express that they really had feelings, I was like, my whole life I've been taught to hide and be tough and just have this guard up, this tough shield up. But here these are grown men. All of them got wives. Some of them didn't have wives. So it was like different experiences. So I was just looking at like, wow, I still got a lot to learn just when I thought I knew it all, you know?
Come on. That's real.
I'm encouraging people my age and younger to be a part of something like this, because I think now more than ever, this generation is more open to discuss the uncomfortable conversations. And we had a lot of uncomfortable, incredible conversation, not only in the men's side, but even when we went to the other side, and Pastor Joseph, I believe was his name, was talking about some of the issues when he was talking about, you know, relationships and how to sexually please one another and some of the, you know, stuff that normally church people stay away from, but he was talking about it. And I was like, wow, it just helped me see that even myself, young as I was, like, man, I don't recall me ever really having this type of conversations in any of my relationships before. So it made me see that God wasn't at the foundation of any of my relationships.
Ooh, that's
Wow.
good.
And I'm young. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I can't name one time me and a girl said a prayer. It was just go to the bed or do whatever we do.
Right.
And
that's real.
You know what I'm saying?
Real.
It was just that.
Real.
You know what I mean? And so for me, that event was a real moment for me, because I started to see we need to start having more conversations like this in my generation and people behind me, because we don't have these conversations enough. And that event was the most powerful thing that I've seen next to on the scale of Oprah and stuff that I see her doing with her show.
Wow.
It was like, wow. It was just so impactful, and it was real help. Me and Jamil kept saying, this is like real help, because you're talking about real discussions and real topics. Yep. And a lot of times you go to these events and it's watered down and filtered because the cameras are on and you don't want to offend nobody. You don't want to offend this room.
Right.
Or you don't want to offend this side of the room. And, you know, it's filtered. But woo, that thing was on fire. And it was like, it wasn't any like cursing or nothing like that going on. So, because I think when people say real, they think, oh, they were cussing and everything. Nah, that's not what I said. I'm saying, like, it was just so real, and it was just real. It was so real and raw, and I I just appreciate that experience. And if you want to see it, you need to really check it out because it was worth going for me at my age. It just blew my mind to see that many grown people going through the same stuff that we went through. And, you know, just to see all the filters off adults. And I'm not saying I'm not an adult. I'm just saying, like, as a younger person in the room, to see all the filters off was like,
yes, no, I get it. You're saying you leveled up. It made you level up.
Right. And
It
just
made me level up, and I organized it.
right.
It leveled up everybody.
Yes.
Right.
That's great.
I thank you for that experience, because it was one that I'll never forget, because it just made everybody in the room see, like, anybody can be anything they want to be if you just put your mind to it and use that faith. And when you had Nidra and when you had Mrs. Carla Moore, I ended up connecting with her. And what was a beautiful thing about it is I had an idea about a TV show that I'm putting together right now, today. And just so happened she was there and was a TV executive.
Wow.
You know, so it just happened. And then when I approached her, I was like, listen, I just wanted to introduce myself. And she said, you know what? I'm going to give you my cell phone number. What? You see what I'm saying? So look at God in the moment of just the networking. And
that's what happens, Dequan, when you let go of the doorknob.
Come on,
because we hold on to the doorknob.
Right.
God's trying to open the door, and we hold on to the doorknob because that's all we know.
My God.
Let me hold on to this door. Let me hold on to this door. But by you letting go and putting yourself in an environment that you would normally be in, you water walking. And when you walk on water, stuff happens.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
You know? And we ran way over today, Venetia. We just ran way over, but you know what?
It's God's show. It's okay. It's all right.
Might be a part A and part B.
That's it.
Yes, I might have to release it in a series. Yeah, man, we can talk about a TV show, Dequan. No, we can talk about that. But I want each of you real quick to give your information of where people can find you. Please. If they want to get their financial fitness in order, please give them your handles, so we call it, Dequan. If they're ready to launch their career, write a book, sing a song, whatever it is, give them your handles. And Jamil, I know you're going to be, we probably won't, I don't know when we're going to get you to speak again, because you probably going to be so booked up. I'm just speaking that on you. You're going to be booked up. So go ahead, and then we're going to say we love you, because we do every week, and Benicia going to take us out. So go ahead, Nerissa.
You can reach me by email at Nerissa, that's Nerissa, at genhealthwealth.com. And the name of my company, as Tanya said, is Generational Health and Wealth, and that's www.genhealthwealth.com. So you can reach me that way. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you, Benicia.
I love this.
I love you both.
For me, you can reach me at highschoolnofool.com is the website where it has a link to the e-version of the book that can be downloaded. The hard copy will be out on December 8th. www.highschoolnofool.com, and on social media, it's highschoolnofool.com on Instagram, and J Massey Speaks on Instagram and Facebook as well. So I thank you guys for having me. It's been a blessing. It's been an honor to a year later to be after the seed was planted and following the process. This is part of the journey. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
And for me, it's simple. It's d4gmanagement.com. It's not hard to find at all. And all my social media is Dequan Starnes. You just type in my name. That's DequanStarnes. You type that in on any social media platform, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you'll find me and everything attached to my name. So I make it very simple. But again, I thank you, Ms. Benicia and Tanya as well. Pleasure meeting your sister as well. I don't remember her. I remember the other sister I think I met at the event. But again, I thank y'all for having us, because this meant a lot to me that y'all would even invite me to do something like this.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
It's our pleasure. Yes.
Yes.
What you got to say, sis, co-host extraordinaire? Take us out.
So I just want to say, again, thank you all for coming. The level and depth of just transparency and honesty was just so rich on today. And I want to say to our audience, thank you so much for joining. And about this event, I just want to say that in this season, we've all experienced some type of trauma, and that is for sure. But God is in the healing and restorative business.
Right.
And one thing, not only each one of these individuals and their gifts are in an investment, and we talked about that earlier, invest in yourself. Going to this conference will be an investment in what we call your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions. And so I just believe that by coming to this event, the trauma that you've experienced, God is going to give you some insight on what he wants to do with it. Everything that we go through, we like to say we're going to Romans 8:28 it. It means that God is going to turn it around. So we all have had mess, and now we all have some type of ministry, and so do you. So we want to say, come out with the spirit of expectation that there is something in the room for you. And so we want to say thank you for joining another episode of Arise and Shine Stories of Triumph. You'll find us not here next Saturday, because guess what? We'll be at the event. So you join us in that room since it's going to be virtual, and we'll be looking forward to just being in the room with you and allowing God to do what he does. And I can't go out without saying, Tanya, thank you so much for being the visionary. Thank you for your yes. And thank you for just being a person that pushes other people, propels them into higher levels of what God has even already called them to do. So we appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
We will see you next time. And I put the link in for you to get registered, and tickets start at free. So come on out. You have no excuse this year. Not one excuse.
Not one. That's right.
All right. We love you. Thank you, Venetia. Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.